talk to other people and, you know, talk about projects. And we met, and, you know, he was a former Mormon. He was brought up a devout Mormon growing up, and even went on a mission to convert others to Mormonism before he kind of, I guess, saw another kind of light and decided that he was deceived and left the church. I had been a former scientist and had done a number of projects on science topics and about belief, and so we, you know, talked about this man here and how astounding it was, I won't say amazing, that there hadn't been a documentary made about him and his fascinating life, and we knew right away that it was the perfect film for us, and we had such a great appreciation for the work that he's done that we wanted to do that. So that's the background behind it.
Fantastic. And Randy, we'll open it up to questions in just a moment, but I wanted to say that it seems like every day there seems to be something in the news about shedding light on pseudoscience. So just this morning I'm seeing things about Dr. Oz, Oprah, etc. Do you feel that, how has television and the internet exacerbated any of these problems, or have they affected these things?
Well, if the producers are really let go on these things instead of being talked to by writers and producers who want them to rein their thoughts in, they can do a very good job, and they have done a very good job. This current thing with Dr. Oz, you may be aware of. I think he needs a little more comeuppance than what he's already gotten on that. And he's not going to do very well in my next book, my 11th book, which will be called A Magician in the Laboratory. And I'm sure you'll all rush out to get a copy of it. It's available, of course. But I think things are improving greatly. And this film is helping too, believe me.
Fantastic. You want to take some questions from the audience? I'm sure you guys have a lot of comments. Yes.
This question's for you, amazing Randy. I'm just struck by the relationship between magic and skepticism, and I guess partly because it seems so counterintuitive. And I was going to ask you whether that goes back to Houdini, whether that's the influence of Houdini himself, or is it more intrinsic to the practice of magic that you would then become a skeptic crusader? Well, if that is a contradiction in terms.
I must say that I think it goes back well before Houdini, the days of Neville Maskelyne and other people that you probably have not heard of at all in different parts of the world. But magicians, when they know how these things are done, and they know how relatively easily people can be deceived, in spite of the fact that they're intelligent people, they can be well educated, but in that particular direction, it's wishful thinking. It's something that people wish to be true. As Jamie and Swiss said on the screen a couple of times there, this is what people want to be true, and they tend to go for it. They tend to accept it. And that's what the weakness is in these folks. So what we try to do is we try to get them to think about it carefully. Take a second look. Don't accept what the media tell you, because the media can be very guilty of this as well, because it makes a much better story if there's a ghost in it than if there's a non-ghost. You can be assured of that.
I think Randy has tried to influence other magicians. Not all magicians automatically take a kind of skeptical viewpoint, and I think Randy, I remember at the Magic Castle Awards when he won a Lifetime Achievement Award, he made a very impassioned speech to kind of tell the other magicians, look, this is kind of our job. We know how these things are done. It's our duty to expose other people who are using these techniques. So,
not magic tricks now, mind you, but so-called psychic tricks and everything, when people insist that they really have the powers. Because real, genuine magicians, that is, conjurers, performers, entertainers, don't do that sort of thing.
And I just wanted to ask you real quickly for other questions. It seemed that Uri Geller is such an adversary, but yet he was eager to appear on camera. Can you talk about that? Any of you?
I think he's pretty transparent from what we saw on the screen there.
Yeah, we wrote Uri an email and said we're doing this film about Randy, biography, who you know well, and of course you've played a large part in his life, and so you're part of the story, and so we'd like to talk to you for the film. And we got an email back from his lawyers, saying, well, as we're sure you know, our client has a very contentious history with the subject of your film, and we want to know exactly how it's going to be portrayed, and a list of the questions that you're going to ask. And Tyler and I looked at each other and just, no, screw it. We don't want to do that. And besides, we have this. What we told them is, well, we have a lot of archival material. We can tell this story without him now, and so you know what? We don't really need him if he doesn't want to participate. Ring, ring, ring. Hello, it's Ori. Yes, please come. And yeah, I think as soon as we threatened to pull the camera away, he was on board, and he was very gracious. We went to his home in Sony-on-Thames outside of London, and he bent some silverware for us.
Okay, some other questions.
Yeah, the bottom line is, don't stand between Uri Geller and a TV camera.
Yes, Mike there.
Congratulations on your marriage, first of all.
Thank you.
I had heard about you when I was a college student many, many years ago, and actually joined something like the National Skeptics Association
Yes.
or agency, and I was wondering, because that really opened my eyes, what you had to say way back then. Is it still going? Is there still some kind of association?
Oh, is it go? You have no idea, man. Let me tell you for the next 30 minutes. No, the James Randi Educational Foundation is only one of the skeptical groups in different parts of the world. Almost every country in the world now has its own skeptical organization, or several of them. And I think that we have fostered this idea rather solidly. I must say the James Randi Educational Foundation, however, we hold our annual meeting, we call it TAM, the amazing meeting, you see. That's in Las Vegas, and it's always a huge success. We had something like 1,260 people at the last one. I think we have to build our own casino in Vegas now in order to accommodate the number of people. But it is very gratifying to gather all these people together from all over the world, from China, from Lithuania, from Australia, from all over the world. It's very edifying, very satisfying to me and to all members of the JRF, of course, to know that we can attract this number of people.
Just to add to what Randy is saying also, if you would like to visit his site, is randi.org, RANDI.org. There is an organization here in Washington, the Capital Area Skeptics.
National Capital Area Skeptics.
Exactly. And Randy's organization provides educational kits, grassroots movement to educate people in science, and online courses, etc., etc. So you can visit and get informed about everything that the next generation is doing, as well as he's doing.
And let me introduce two of our very good friends and one of the officers from our executive board, Chip Denman and Grace Denman, are against the wall there. Glad to see you folks here. Arrived a bit late. I did my naked dance on fire at the beginning and everyone loved it. You missed it, yes.
Yes, right there.
Yeah, from the movie, I mean, I remember seeing you on television when I was young.
I spent that money already.
When you were on the Johnny Carson show, on the Tonight Show, and it seems to me from the movie and from through your story, he's sort of a hero of this.
Oh, yes.
And that he was one of the few people on television who decided, I wanted to go attack this type of thing as opposed to trying to prop it up for ratings. I would like to, if you talk about sort of your relationship with him and why he was interested in it.
My relation with Johnny was very strong, and when I got the call that he had passed away for a day, 24 hours, really, I could hardly say or think anything. It was such a shock to me because I'd spoken to him just 2 weeks previously. He had retired by then, and it was a great, great shock to me. But the memory of Johnny is very, very strong in my mind, and well, the next book you'll see a whole chapter on him and what he did for us. Such a fine gentleman who was very serious about wanting to make sure that people out there understood that fakes are fakes and that they should be fought and they should be exposed. And he gave me all the opportunity to do that, and I'm very, very grateful to him and to his memory as well.
I think one of the reasons that Johnny Carson appreciated Randy is that Johnny had been an amateur magician as well early on before he
yes. Oh yes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
How long it took you to make the movie?
About 3 years. It was about about 3 years ago this summer that we began. So TAM is coming up in July. Is it? And
yes.
so the first time, the first filming that we did was at the TAM, the meeting in Las Vegas 3 years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a great film. I loved it so much. I saw it in Sheffield and I've come back to see it again in Washington.
Thank you.
The film is all about deception and uncovering deception and sleight of hand. The bit of the film with Randy where he sort of goes, "You're not to use this material." Clearly he gave permission, you're out of the bind. If he'd not said yes, what would you have done? And I'm assuming this was a post-court case, you decided it would be okay for the material to be used, but can you talk about the decision making on that?
Well, I realized that was just at the point when this had all been revealed to me, and I was still struggling with it. It was a matter of hours before that we had actually had this all revealed, and I was quite bewildered by the whole thing. I had to do a lot of thinking about it, but it didn't take long for me to realize that, wait a minute, we made an agreement, Justin and Tyler and myself, and Davey, of course. We made an agreement that it was warts and all, like Oliver Cromwell is supposed to have said to his portraitist, because he had a very warty face, and he said warts and all, and it was warts and all with us, and some of those warts were not very attractive, but I had to go back on that, and I got a hold of them within 48 hours, and I said, let's do it. Let's go ahead with it, because honesty is certainly something that we want to pursue, and it does say honest liar after all, you know? So we wanted to stay with that character.
I think at first, I mean, it obviously was a little questionable, but how should I put this? I wanted to make sure that he was represented correctly. I mean, honestly, as he said, we had agreed from the very beginning. He said, you know, my life is open to you. But he actually was concerned more for me. Because rightly so, you know, if I am lying to my subject as a filmmaker, that might give other people pause in the future before they agree to appear in my films. But once I kind of explained creatively why I wanted it to be in there and why I felt it worked in the film, and you know, he realized, as he said, that you know, honesty is the best policy, and I think the capper was realizing that we needed to put that disclaimer at the end, which hopefully people stay to read so that they don't hate me after seeing it.
Yes.
Yeah. I was wondering, since you worked with other kind of aspiring magicians of sorts, the other like members in the whole Stanford.
Oh, we're all immortal, didn't you know that?
Yeah.
I didn't say immoral, I said immortal.
Well, I was wondering, as someone of faith, it was very sad to see kind of the corrupt church leaders and everything. I was wondering if you worked with any other kind of church leaders to help debunk some of the others, maybe.
So, the church leaders were, they wanted to stay away from that. They just backed out of it. I thought that was very improper of them. I made some tentative offers towards them, but they know very well that I am an atheist, and I've declared myself to be an atheist, and I think for very good reasons. It's not just because it's something I choose. I think I have good reasons to be an atheist. I'm not going to go into that now because that's not the subject. But no, we didn't get any help from any of the religious figures at all, though we should have, I believe.
Yes, sir.
So, this is to everybody, but you're in Washington, D.C. presenting the film at the summary of your life. And so, I wonder what concerns you have about the fate of rationality and science in public policy versus belief in the supernatural, wishful thinking, faith-based government, etc.
Well, let me start.
Go ahead.
Quickly. I'm going to hold my tongue because I don't know who exactly is in the audience. But actually, one of the events that we filmed that's in the film was the Reason Rally, the first annual Reason Rally.
Right here in Washington.
Right, which I thought was brilliant, and I'm hoping that builds annually, and that was exactly a movement to bring rationality and scientific thinking and evidence-based thinking to politics. And there was Richard Dawkins and Tim Minchin and and Randi and a lot of really great people speaking on the in the mall in front of the Washington Monument, I believe. So even it was a rainy, horrible day, but there was still a huge crowd out there. And then there was a little crowd of religious protesters, of course. But so that was really rewarding to see. But I don't know what thoughts you might have to add about this.
First of all, following Richard Dawkins is no fun. I can tell you that. He sweeps the floor clean in front of you, and you're standing there and you're wondering where to skate. But no, I had a wonderful time at the Reason Rally, and I knew all of the people there already. We'd already been very good friends for years now, and but I found it something that really should continue, and I don't know that it is continuing. That's the big problem. They found it was very expensive to do, and that I think they had trouble raising some funds for it. But I really hope that it can be done again, and that it should be done every year. We need reason at least once a year, don't you think?
This is probably the only one of the few developed or first world countries where you can't really get elected office unless you profess a belief in a higher being.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. So it's my. There are a lot of ways one can make a film to try and bring these issues to an audience, and I'm hoping that this isn't an incredibly direct way, because it's through a biography, but it's through a biography of a man whose life is devoted to these issues. And so for me, I want to bring in people to see the film and to start thinking about these issues, not because they were automatically interested in them in the first place. And so, it's part of our hope in people seeing this film that these issues will come up. And there is another issue that is political that we should talk about.
And I would like to say something. In the 1980s, to be gay, it was considered a pathology in the United States. In Venezuela, was basically death sentence. 30 years later, we're still considering whether gay people should have equality of marriage, to have civil equality, really. And we are basically the face of this kind of policies that are very discriminatory and that cause a lot of pain. And we are just one story out of 1,000 of couples that just want to be together and are forced to be forced in choosing untenable decisions. That shouldn't be like that when it is just so normal for everybody else. And I hope that to whatever extent we continue the dialogue about these kind of policies and how they can be changed, so these situations do not need to happen.
So, yeah. You saw in the film, 2 weeks after the federal marriage equality laws were passed, Davey drove to D.C. because he couldn't fly at the time to get married. And now, after those laws were passed, now same-sex couples where one of the partners is not a citizen have the same rights as heterosexual couples, where they can get citizenship through marriage. Had that been possible 25 years ago, they wouldn't have had to do what they did. And I think it was only yesterday I saw the government has now extended all of the benefits to federal employees, not just in D.C. but around the country. All of the same marriage benefits for same-sex couples as heterosexual couples get. And I think that's a really great development, even though it's a little bit late. But.
Yeah.
Yes.
The situation you found in yourself in Venezuela is very common throughout the world. I mean, thousands and millions of people are being persecuted. Uganda, Nigeria, all over Russia. Many people are trying to apply for asylum. Is that still an option to you to apply for political asylum? Would that help your situation?
Not at the situation that I find myself in because of the criminal case. Right now, I find myself basically in legal limbo, and I'm not eligible for that. And at that time, obviously, as I said, it was a pathology, so there was no relief for asylum at that moment. And now, because of everything that happened, I'm not able to apply for that either.
Wait, Matt?
So clearly, the situation with the Davies criminal situation or staying in the States happened while you were filming. Had there been any between Davey and Randy? Had there been any discussion when you agreed to allow your life to be filmed that this might be uncovered or this might come up just by the filmmaking team?
Well, I wasn't happy about the documentary, obviously, but I felt that Randy's life was, it was necessary to do a documentary on him. So I said, well, I went with it, but I wasn't really thrilled.
Were you worried that this would come up because of the documentary?
Well, I just didn't. I mean, I don't particularly see myself as a public persona. I find, even though I'm an artist, my art is what I consider to be public. But then at the end, I just, after everything that happened, I just felt that if I tell my story, maybe it might help some other couple, some other people do better in this kind of situation.
I think in the beginning he was kind of scurrying out of camera range, but I don't think they would have any reason after 22 or 23 years living as Jose Alvarez that coincidentally during the time that we're filming it would be discovered, and it had nothing to do with the fact that we were filming. It just happened to occur while we were.
I must say that this came up, it was quite sudden. It happened right in the middle of filming and such, and it took me a good 48 hours to really figure out what is happening here all of a sudden. This thing just dropped on us, and that's why I hesitated, and that's why I made that unfortunate statement that was left in the film. And I insisted that it be left in the film, and Justin agreed that it should be. Justin and Tyler both agreed that it should be, and I'm very happy that it did stay in there, because this is a complete making known of the actual facts. I want that to be very clear. I want to be honest. That's all there is to it.
We have time for one more question. Yes, sir.
I wondered if you had any advice for us in terms of maybe when we're interacting with somebody who believes in something that we may not believe is true. And I'm thinking here, including like with our children, as a parent, I've struggled, should our kids believe in Santa Claus or Easter? I want them to enjoy the magic of that belief, but yet over time as they grow, recognize it's not true. And what prompts my question is that Easter, we told for a number of reasons our 6-year-old that the Easter Bunny is not true. That night,
not true?
Yeah. that night she I overheard her tell her older brother, "Oh, Mom and Dad says the Easter Bunny's not true, but I don't believe that." She wanted to believe, and I interact a lot in sort of a religious community where people believe a lot. And I just wonder, based on your experience, if you had
this I must say, though I've never had any children that I know of. I can't quite appreciate the situation, but I can, from a distance, I can look at it, I think, from a distance, and I can see that it could be a serious problem for parents. Did you lie to me, Daddy? Kind of thing. I mean, that's a tough question to handle right there. I don't really know how to give you advice on these matters, as I say. But I think that is a problem, and it has to be handled. I think that it has to be handled very gently, perhaps a little earlier than sometimes it is. I think the earlier you get to it, the better it probably is. I, as a kid, I knew from the moment I was able to speak, I'm sure, that there was no such thing. I got thrown out of Sunday school. Can you imagine actually thrown out of Sunday school because I asked too many questions? I kept saying, how do you know that? And that's at a very early age. And I found out also something else that a little bit of research led me to. I was given 25 cents to put on the plate, you see, as an offering at Sunday school. And I found out that 25 cents at Purdy's drugstore up on Bayview Avenue would find me a 2-flavor ice cream sundae instead of just 1 flavor. And my friend Gary only got 20 cents. I had 25 cents. And so I sort of lorded it over Gary for weeks and weeks until he finally got 25 cents out of it. Yeah, ice cream sundaes did me a lot more good than any Sunday school could have done, I think.
And on that note, we have to wrap up. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. It's very, very good.